Hey guys, Stephen Hawks here. And today I just wanted to have a little discussion with you guys about Skype lessons versus YouTube. So this isn't a normal live video, and I'll still go live on Saturday as well. And that'll be more of a lesson video. So don't worry, this does not count as the full lesson video for this week. You're not missing out on the lesson if you're missing this. So do not worry. But I wanted to talk to those people that are basically on the fence about if they should take lessons, private lessons or Skype lessons, something of that nature, versus learning on their own on YouTube. And I think there's a place for both. So I'm going to say that first. But basically, there are limitations to YouTube. And then, of course, there are small cons with Skype that I must mention. But basically, with YouTube, you get to learn a whole bunch of different things, right? So there's a plethora of things out there. There's warm-up exercises, scales, everything you could possibly imagine on YouTube. But as a beginner or an intermediate bass player, how are you going to know where to start, basically? So if you have a little bit of a foundation on another instrument, YouTube might work great for you. You might be going around just picking little things here, picking little things there, putting it all together, and creating your arsenal of what to play and how to play, techniques and things of that sort. But I think the benefit of Skype lessons is basically, or private lessons for that matter, if you're in person one-on-one with somebody as well, I think that's even more beneficial. But if you at least have Skype lessons, basically you get the benefit of, if you're doing something wrong technique-wise, it's easy to spot. Like, let's say you're playing and your wrist is like this the entire time. Well, when I'm teaching you on YouTube, I don't know that that's an issue that you have. You might have heard me say, hey, we can fix that, keep your wrist as straight as possible. But when you get into a really hard passage, you might not even know that you're doing that, right? So for that reason, I think Skype lessons could really help clear up that issue. Okay. Now, you could figure this all out on YouTube, and if you know what to search for, you search for right-hand technique, left-hand technique, and you can find a whole bunch of different people's videos, right? Like I have a few on right-hand technique, left-hand technique, warm-ups, all this other stuff. And then I have some lessons on scales, and I even have a beginner playlist that if you run down it, it kind of works like a course, right? So it tells you how to hold the U-bass or bass ukulele, whichever you have. It tells you a whole bunch of different things like that. I have videos on picking the right one for you, which strings work best, all of those kinds of things. Hello, hello. Hey, Tristan, how's it going? But it doesn't really answer if your technique is right all the time. And it's not always easy for us to tell as players if we're consistent. So that's one big reason for Skype. With YouTube, basically, you have all this stuff and it's easy to get overwhelmed too. So you might be picking a song that's way too advanced and not even know it because it doesn't say it's an advanced song. It's just a song that you want to learn. Whereas if you brought that lesson to a teacher, they may say, hey, let's work on this piece of this song, and then we'll learn these scales and these techniques and then come back to it once you have the technique that you need in order to play the song correctly. So there's a benefit of YouTube in that you can find anything that you want out there, right? And it's free. And literally, I mean, you can search the name of a song, and you can search, you can even search like bass tabs, or I think there's a website, a YouTube channel called Cover Solutions. And you just literally type in the name of the song you want and then Cover Solutions. And that guy has done so many bass videos with so many tabs on the screen that you can almost find any song. So anybody looking for that, that's awesome. And I think you should do that. And I think that's a big benefit to YouTube. All this information's at our fingertips. However, if you don't know where to go, what songs to pick, then you may want to have a teacher kind of help you figure that out. Another thing, if your goals are to be able to play along with your ukulele group, or be able to play along with a piano player, or be able to play in a band, or how to play with a drummer, I can tell you how to do that on a YouTube video, but you might only get some of the information down. So you might be confused about some parts of it, and then you have to ask me questions, which in this live feed, you can ask me questions, and I highly recommend asking questions anytime that you want. But and I'm happy to answer them. Oh, you like the Primus poster? Yeah, Primus is one of my favorite bands. This one's actually a signed poster. So I've got the drummer's signature and Les Claypool's signature up here. So it was really cool getting to see them live. But I know this is a little bit of a boring topic, but I just wanted to kind of mention that. And I also wanted to mention that I do offer Skype lessons. So I know I don't mention that a lot on the channel. Every now and then I'll mention it in descriptions. But I do offer Skype. And right now, those lessons are discounted. So they are not going to be discounted this low for long. I'm actually discontinuing that at May 31st. But right now, they're about $10 off of lessons. All right, I'll definitely keep the lessons coming. So that's the other thing. If you end up not being able to do Skype, because I know one big advantage to YouTube is free. And that's why I like putting content on there, is to encourage everybody to play and get into it, right? But if you really want to take your playing to the next level, I think you're going to need lessons at some point. Even if that's like one lesson that you can take with somebody and you can just pick their brain and ask all these questions. Like one thing with the course, I noticed that a lot of my students have gone through my beginner playlist, right, on here. And if you don't know about my beginner playlist, I'll probably link that down below for the replay of this video. But basically, the beginner playlist, it'll walk you through everything, right? You learn how to hold the U-bass. I think the only thing I left out on there was tuning the U-bass. But it'll teach you how to hold the U-bass. It'll teach you some basic right-hand technique, left-hand technique, warm-up exercises, scales, and even how to come up with a bass line for songs using the root and the fifth of a chord. And then it'll teach you arpeggios. And then I think it even starts to talk about walking lines. And then I have another video later on in that series that actually does talk more in depth about walking lines. So I had some students that watched all of those videos. They went through all of that. And then when they were taking lessons with me, they were talking about the different theory things that they know. And they knew a lot of stuff, but they didn't really know how it all tied together. So everybody's missing a different piece when it comes to that kind of situation. So in lessons, you can ask specific questions that let me know, oh, this is the part that you're missing, right? So it's like, it might be that you don't understand the importance of assigning one finger to one fret when you play scales, or when you play like notes out of tune, or not out of tune, out of order in the scale. It's really helpful to have that scale pattern, because then you can just think in terms of like notes within the scale. So if I gave each one of these a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, I could like hum a melody or hum a bass line. And I could say this bass line is 1, 3, 4, 5. So you do the first note of the scale, the third note of the scale, the fourth note of the scale, and the fifth note of the scale. But then you have to know the rhythm, right? And so I can teach you all that. And I can teach you, like, let's say the rhythm's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Could be like that. But if we're missing the concept of how to count, for instance, we could go over that in lessons. Whereas, in a live situation on YouTube, I could also answer that question as well. But everybody's, once again, missing a different piece. So I just wanted to mention to everybody that I do teach Skype lessons as well. There is a link below in the description right now. And until May 31st, those are going to be discounted. So instead of $30 a lesson, they're going to be $20 a lesson for 30 minutes. And you can buy them in bulk if you want to right now. So for instance, let's say you bought 2 months worth of lessons and you bought it before May 31st. Well, you can get them all at that cheaper price. It's just once it gets past May 31st, the overall price is going to go up. So if you're interested, just check that out. It's in the link below. And if you're not interested, believe me, there's plenty of free stuff on YouTube, and I honestly want to put more up there for you. So does anybody have any, well, hopefully Tristan's got a question. So how much do Skype lessons cost? So I'm not sure how to convert that into other currency, but US dollars, it's $20. So whatever that correlates to in other currencies, until May 31st, they're $20 per 30-minute lesson. And one thing that I do want to mention is that I had some people that were interested in lessons go to the site, and in certain countries, I think PayPal doesn't work as well. If that's the case, please just email me, and my email is on that site too. And let me know that that's the issue, and we can work out some alternate means if PayPal is just not working for you. And it's not a PayPal account that you need to pay for it. It actually takes credit cards and stuff too. But yes, so that's a good question on how much it costs. Right now, I've got them discounted. And like I said, if you wanted to buy a month or two out, you could buy 4 lessons a month for the next 2 months at the $20 price. But as soon as it gets to May 31st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to raise those prices. So I just thought I'd mention that to you guys so you don't miss out on that deal. And then, you know, I will be going live on Saturday as well, and that will be for free, of course. And then if you want something in between, like let's say that that's just too much for you. And I totally understand, especially with a lot of people losing jobs, a lot of people having to stay home. It's just kind of a tough time. Well, one, there's all these things for free on YouTube. But if you want the tabs for a lot of this stuff, that's available on Patreon. If the songs are copyright content where somebody else owns the copyrights, it's actually going to be free on Patreon. So if you have the patience to go down the Patreon list and just literally scroll through the whole entire Patreon feed, you can find any song on there that I have a lesson video on here for. And the sheet music is most likely for free there. And then the more beginner material and any lessons that I taught or any original songs or anything of that nature is going to be for patrons only. And that's only a $5 a month thing to have access for that. But like I said, to follow me, to listen to music, to do all this stuff, you do not have to do either of those things. You don't have to take Skype lessons, although I think if you want to get to the next level with bass playing, I can help you there. But there'll be lots of content on here and lots of things, and you can always ask me questions on the live feeds. So if anybody has any questions right now, feel free to ask them, and I might just play a little bit just to kind of play us out of this video. And honestly, if you have any particular questions, I'm happy to answer them. They can be about Skype or they can be about Ubase. They don't have to be about that today. But I wanted to let you guys know since that offer is ending very soon. Thanks for listening. So, BB Ukes, let's see. What Ubase do I recommend? So that's another tough one that's kind of hard to answer because people want different things out of a Ubase. So I really like my Journeyman with this is the Kala Journeyman with the flat wound strings, but the flat wound strings sound less like an upright than the rubber strings do plugged in. So that's something to keep in mind. But they're easier to slide on, right? So you can slide and the note's not out of tune when you get to the last note. So so honestly, I like the Journeyman. I think if I were going to pick something more in the middle range, so these are like the lower range Kala instruments. But something in the middle range, I have the exotic mahogany, and I've had my eye on getting maybe even a fretless ebony tenor. Not tenor, I have the tenor ukulele, that's why I said that. The ebony Ubase. And that one seems really cool, and I really like the way it looks. So that's more of an aesthetic thing as far as that goes. But as far as which U-base is the best, I mean, I think it just kind of goes with their price ranges. So it's probably the solid body U-bases might sound the best and might have the best electronics in them, but the $400 to $500 range is going to have some really quality stuff too. Like I said, the Journeyman's pretty good. I feel like the quality control is even better on that middle range. So this range is pretty good. But one downside to these is the back plates. They're magnetic. I still own the back plate. I just don't leave it on the instrument, because sometimes after a while, when it gets a little bit demagnetized, it starts to rattle when you play. So you're taking that off, it fixes the rattle. And I think no, they're the same tuners, it looks like. Yeah, the tuners might be a little bit better on the 400 to 500 range U-bass as well. But that is a tricky one on which one do I recommend. I'm going to go with probably the Journeyman for the kind of lower middle range. And then I think the Ebony U-bass would be pretty cool. The Exotic Mahogany is pretty cool. Honestly, those, it's really just a matter of what kind of wood do you like better. And that's mostly an aesthetic thing, since really the electronics are going to do most of the work. The tone's not going to be too much different based on the different woods. So it's really the electronics that are going to make the big difference. And they're all going to have the same electronics when they're in that same price range. Hope that answers your question. What is the U-bass tuned to? So the U-bass is tuned just like the upright bass. We've got our E string, so you can hear them back to back. Then the A string, where I can rattle the walls. The D string, and then the G string. So it's the same octave. You can tell one of these is a little bit out of tune. Not sure which one, but they're in the same octave. So a lot of these questions are really good. I'm going to save some of them for Saturday. So if you have any other questions, yeah, this is the College Journeyman, as far as the one I'm holding right now. I believe that one's around $300 US. Don't quote me on that. You might have to look it up. I think I saw a sale on this particular one, getting it in red. The black one didn't look like it was on sale, but there was a sale somewhere on the red one where it was $50 cheaper than the other one. And I remember seeing that. But yeah, I really like this one a lot. All right, so now we have, with the tuning and with everything else, I think we're pretty good. Which did you have to keep your hand on it to stop the sound? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. So let's see. Which one did I have to keep my hand on it to stop the sound? I mean, if you're talking about muting strings, I think you're going to have to do that on pretty much any bass ukulele where you like, you can use one of your hands to mute the strings while you're playing. If you're talking about right now while I was doing this, both of them will ring out. So I'm not sure what the question was. If you can clarify which thing ringing out you're talking about. To keep the strings from humming. I don't think I've had that issue too much. If I have on the directly plugged in things, let me know, because I actually don't think I've had a issue with the instrument itself humming and having to touch the strings to stop them. But as far as the strings ringing out, the metal strings are going to ring out more than the rubber strings. And when I say rubber, I mean the polyurethane. They're technically polyurethane strings, because they kind of, the material they are doesn't resonate as much. So the round wound strings are probably going to make the most sound. And then the flat wound strings will make a little bit less sound. As you notice, they kind of have a little bit more of a muted quality. They don't ring out quite as much as the round wounds. And then the rubber strings are probably going to sort of have some self-muted sound built in, which I believe is why they sound more like the upright. If I were to mute with my palm on these, it kind of sounds like the rubber strings a little bit more. but you don't have to do that on the rubber strings to get the same idea. So hopefully that answers your question. Does anybody else have any last minute questions? If you've got more questions, you can always leave them in the comments below, and I will answer them on the next live stream, even if you miss it. Or you can ask live. I'll be going live on Saturday at 7 p.m. That's my typical streaming time until gig season starts back up, which I believe will be at the end of June, hopefully, but we'll see how it goes. You know, times are kind of uncertain right now. But yeah. So does anybody have any questions on anything? Any questions about Skype lessons or the Ubase in general? Well, I'll give you all a second to come up with your final questions, and I will play a little original called Going Camping. All right. And yes, so you're asking if you can purchase the lessons now for a later time. Yes, you can purchase them in bulk. So if you wanted to get that $10 off price, which means $20 per lesson of 30 minutes, you could buy a month or two worth of lessons. I mean, I can't imagine someone wanting to buy 6 months worth of lessons, but I will honor that price if you do want to buy that many. I just think that you know, buying one or 2 months at a time, you got to make sure that you like the lessons and make sure that it's a good fit for you. But yes, if you wanted to, you could buy lessons at this price through May 31st, and you could just lock in a time if you want to do them weekly, and just literally I will schedule that time and block it off for you, or we can schedule them week to week, which means if your schedule differs from week to week, you just let me know at least 48 hours before your normal lesson time, and we can reschedule during that week. So I hope that answers your question, and I'd love to see you all over there. I look forward to teaching you, and also if you're just on here hanging out, there's many more free lessons to come, and I'll do more product reviews, of course. I like doing those. And if you want something kind of in between, there's always Patreon. And Patreon, you'll at least get the sheet music. And you also, upon signing up, you get not one a month, not one a year, but you get one lesson arrangement that you can request for me to do. And I'm happy to do them, but it's only one. I know some people have gotten confused and said, hey, can you do this one too? And it's just one for now. Okay. But if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I will be happy to answer them. And I look forward to seeing you on here and potentially seeing you in lessons. Bye for now.